Are the Detroit Lions simply out of excuses as to why they have not brought in ZaDarius Smith by now? The question is, could this be happening, and will it be happening? Is ZaDarius Smith going to be back in Detroit at some point this week? Now, I had a conversation with a former executive of the league, and he gave me some tidbits and really a bigger understanding as to what's happening with ZaDarius Smith. Now, that was over a week ago that I had that conversation, and I let everybody know the outcome of that conversation during the morning show. So I wanted to bring everybody in one more time here in a video to talk about what that conversation said and what's happening right now with ZaDarius Smith and the Detroit Lions in the wake of Levi Onwuzurike. So I received an email today with some questions about bringing back ZaDarius Smith, and does it make sense because of Levi being injured and gone for the season? And it does and it doesn't, right? I mean, that's the easy answer. But you know that I'm going to bring it in with some stats. We're going to go through some factual analysis of what each player, did last season and what each player does moving forward. So does it make sense on the surface? Well, you're having an extra body on the team that has a lot of experience that can help you win from, a multiple or a very versatile look, if you will, by having another guy of his experience on the right side or the left side, wherever he wants to line up. But is he a direct replacement for Levi Onwuzurike? And the answer is no. He is not. ZaDarius Smith is not a defensive tackle. And yes, Levi does play on the outside at times, and he's more of a hybrid role, or at least he was utilized in a hybrid role last season. A lot of guys were used in hybrid roles last season, and that's because of all the injuries that the Detroit Lions faced. So let's bring it in. Let's talk about, this article that it's asking, have the Lions run out of excuses for not bringing in this familiar face? This is written by Ann Erickson out of the Heavy Man. She's put together some good stuff that I love to pick apart over the week. But let's just see what Lions fans are talking about. And then I'm going to bring in the stats and show you guys what I'm talking about and try to make sense of it all to see if it really does give us a better idea if the Lions would bring in ZaDarius Smith because of the Levi Onwuzurike injury. But here's one question I'm going to pose to you right now. It's not like this injury just happened. I have a feeling, and we're going to find out at some point, that this injury to Levi has probably been in place for longer than a week. The Lions have known about it. Matter of fact, they may have known about it for longer than that. We just don't know. It's not like this is new. No one got the idea today that this was new. This is something that happened, but we don't know exactly when. So it'd be interesting to find out when this injury happened. Remember, they didn't have to release any sort of injury reports or anything up until last week. So this could have happened a month ago. It could have happened right after they signed him. It wasn't NFI, so it probably happened in one of the, off-season workouts, which I'm thinking it probably happened a month ago. But we'll find out. Let's take a look at the screen real quick. Let's take a look at this article. What's happening with Detroit Lions fans? Now, we're obviously dealing with a lot of injuries on the squad, as this article states, and the season hasn't even started yet. It's all too familiar place for the team, which dealt with a ton of injuries last season, including star edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson. Now, those injuries could have cost them a playoff win or wins, and it did, honestly. But now it's already happening again. Dan Campbell spoke to reporters ahead of the Lions' first training camp practice this morning and dropped the news that defensive tackle Levi Onwuzurike is out for the entire season with a torn ACL. Now, following this development, it could not be more clear that what the Lions should do, right? According to Ann, Brad Holmes has been dragging his feet on this situation, but he can't wait any longer. He needs to do something, right? Well, what is that something? The Lions need to make a move fast, according to Ann. Look, ZaDarius hasn't gone anywhere in months. I don't think he's going anywhere right now. But according to Ann, Holmes needs to call right now, text, or send a smoke signal to ZaDarius Smith. That's the guy that needs to get back in town right away and get him back on the squad. Now, I would be elated if this happened. I would love to see ZaDarius Smith back on this team. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I would love to see ZaDarius Smith because that is just another insurance policy for Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport and Josh Paschal, who's also injured. So it's a move that many Lions, fans, this fan base, have been strongly, wanting, voicing their opinion about all over social media. I mean, everywhere you look, it's there. But Holmes has remained strangely uninterested. And I think that that's a false statement because Brad said as much, during the offseason meetings. or at the offseason meetings when he did press conferences, that he is highly interested in ZaDarius Smith, that they are keeping in contact with ZaDarius Smith's agent. So I wouldn't say he's uninterested. I think that there's something I'm going to tell you tonight that is going to be that aha moment, like, makes sense. So you'll find out what that is here in just a moment. Now, Smith wants to come back. He's even dating Detroit rapper Kosh Dahl, which, let's be honest, that has no bearing on whether he's a Detroit Lion or not. And at this point, he's been a real part of the city, and he has been. Look, he's been all over the place. He's been having fun. He's been hanging around Detroit. But again, that has no bearing on where he plays football. He told USA Today in June that we both know where I want to be. Hopefully, I can get back to Detroit because the coaching staff and everybody in the front office are great. When I'm there, I feel like a leader, and I like that I can influence the young guys and do great things. Hopefully, I can get back to where I want to be in Detroit. Well, quite honestly, Z, we want you back in Detroit, but right now, Marcus Davenport is the guy that is leading the right side of this defense, and a lot of people are not happy about that. A lot of people were more inclined to have ZaDarius Smith on the right side because Smith was a natural fit with the team, and he is still available. So it's time for Brad to do something, right? Now, he's still a free agent, and he's been a free agent. Now, with all these injuries that are creeping up, again, it makes sense to bring somebody in. But is that answer ZaDarius Smith? Right now, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to say no for a reason. But we'll get to that reason in just a moment. Now, the Lions already have a solution to their new injury problem, and they can't wait, on making this move, according to Ann Erickson, that it's time for ZaDarius Smith to get in Detroit. Now, Brad Holmes has been criticized. I would say he's been a lot more than just criticized on not making the big moves during the draft, during free agency, you name it. Brad's been picked apart by a certain faction of this fan base that isn't seeing the bigger picture, but at the same time, it's their picture, right? It's their image of the team that they see. And that's okay. Like, that's your opinion. That's what you want. That's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that it becomes a problem when it's making it a divide, between the fan base that, look, we've never been this good. And clearly what Brad has been doing has been working. So why screw it up? If he's gotten us this far, why would we want to screw that up by potentially, bringing in some players for a lot of money that could then screw up not being able to retain some players that have gotten us this far? Does that make sense? Now, Onwuzurike signed a deal with the Lions. It was a 1-year, $4 million deal, which honestly, he's only going to make about $1 million of that after, the injury and what, guaranteed money is in there. I think that's about it. I haven't seen the injury guarantee and what he's guaranteed for injury, but it's usually the base of his guarantee. So it's not much. Okay, so that's it, right? That's the article. Now I'm going to ask you, do you agree with the article? Do you agree that it's time for Brad to get on the phone? It's time for Brad to call the agent and say, look, we're willing to bring Z in. The other question is, are you willing to pay him about $10 million a year? Because I think that's the number. I think that Z is in that $10 to $12 million range. That's what he's looking to make. And that's a lot of money. Do we have the cap space? The Lions do. They absolutely do. They can bring him in tomorrow. And that would potentially cause an issue next year when the Lions are trying to re-sign a couple of guys. But is ZaDarius going to be that answer that is going to push us over the edge to win a Super Bowl? That's the question you really have to ask. Is he going to get us over the hump to win a Super Bowl? I would say no. I would say Trey Hendrickson's the guy that's going to get us over the edge to win a Super Bowl. Probably not ZaDarius Smith, right? I mean, you bring in a guy like Trey Hendrickson, now we're talking, someone that can go out there and do exactly what Aiden does. And then that can help. But it's the middle of the defense that I'm most worried about. It's the middle of the defense that's going to allow these guys to do their work. So the next question is, Levi Onwuzurike, he exits the team for a year. Is ZaDarius Smith a direct replacement? The answer is no. Let's take a look at the screen. This is Levi O, and this is his snaps last season, regular and postseason. What did he do? First of all, he's 6'3", 290. So he has that hybrid role. He's a tweener between a defensive tackle and a defensive end. He was selected round 2. The other thing that I'll throw at you too is, Brad has not ignored the defense, right? I mean, ever since, let's just look at it real quick, right? Ever since they came in, Brad and Dan, I mean, just look. Go all the way back to 2021. Levi Onwuzurike, Ali McNeil, Derek Barnes, right? But Levi O and Aleem for the defensive line. Aiden Hutchinson the following year. James Houston, which he's no longer with the team, but Josh Paschal, in year 2. How about Broderick Martin, your favorite player, in year 3? Mekhi Wingo in year 4. And this season, Tyleik Williams, Ahmed Hassanin in year 5. So it's not like they've ignored it. Okay, but what is it that Levi Onwuzurike does that ZaDarius Smith does or doesn't do? Well, 695 snaps for Levi last season. Now, DLT is defensive left tackle, DRT, defensive right tackle, LE, left end, LEO, left end outside, LOLB, left outside linebacker. Well, where did he line up? He lined up out of 695 snaps. About half of them came from playing on the defensive line at left tackle and right tackle. That is about 275 snaps right there. So it's about half his snaps, a little more than a third. Okay. He played outside, left end outside, right? So kind of getting in that wide, that wide 9, 45 snaps last year. Nose tackle, about 10, 11 snaps. How about the right end side? So he played 115 snaps at the right end, right? So that's it. Maybe 170 snaps on the right end, right outside linebacker, never really, 9 snaps. And that's just of alignment purposes, right? That's, depending on what scheme you're in. So just remember those numbers. We'll come back. ZaDarius Smith. Okay, what did he do for the Lions last year? Where does he fit? So 629 snaps last season. Now, this one's kind of hard. This one's kind of hard to whittle down because he played for both teams. But you can see where he plays, right? He does not play defensive tackle at all. DLT and DRT, 22 snaps. Left end, 28. He plays on the outside. So he's a left end on the outside in the wide 9, right? He's off the outside of the tackle. He plays in that left, outside linebacker role predominantly. And that's just what he does. That's his job. So he does not really compare. When you think about what a Leo is, a left outside, left end outside, right? It's a weak side defensive end or an edge rusher, if you will, that's typically a lighter, faster player, traditionally called a defensive end. Their role is to really pin back their ears, get after the quarterback. They often, they're stood up and they use a wide 9 technique. They're not a defensive tackle. They're positioned outside the tackle, not inside like a defensive tackle or a nose tackle. And, to think of the Leo position, it's a cross between defensive end and outside linebacker. Matter of fact, I want to say it was Gus Bradley's defensive system that made this position, just different. It's you call it a Leo, right? It's a defensive end it's focused on speed. And that's what ZaDarius Smith brings you. That's not what Levi is bringing you. Same thing for right end. But the nose tackle position, I don't really need to explain it, right? That's the 1 technique, the 2-eye, left side, right side. It doesn't really matter. 3 technique, 2-eye, again, for the right tackle. So a little bit different. Little bit different than what both these guys are doing. They're a little bit different, excuse me. So he's playing predominantly left outside linebacker, 183 snaps, right end outside and right outside linebacker. So if you were to add up his snaps, the 132, that's what, 2, that's like 320, 450, call it 540 snaps. He's on the outside of these tackles. It's the exact opposite of what Levi's doing, right? The majority of his snaps are on the inside. But I would say that he's more like a 70-30 guy. Levi is. He's 70% on the inside. He's about 30% or 65-35, 65% on the inside, 35% on the outside. So is ZaDarius Smith a fit to replace Levi Onwuzurike? The answer is no. He is not. So I know everyone's getting all huffy-puffy about it right now, and they're saying, we got to bring in Z because Levi's down. No, that's wrong. We need to bring in Z because we need more depth on the defensive line with players that can make big plays, and he is somebody that can make a big play. So it's the semantics, of the argument here. It's not a one-for-one trade-off with Z and Levi. Okay, so lastly here, what I wanted to mention is about the conversation that I had with an executive about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago now, and it was about ZaDarius Smith. So there was a lot of conversation about ZaDarius Smith coming back. Why hasn't he been brought back to the team already? And here's the simplistic, answer. ZaDarius Smith is not under contract with anybody. Brad Holmes and Z and his agent, they left it, from a handshake deal. Hey, if you get a team that's coming after you, at least give us, a shot to kind of get in it. That's what I took away from Brad, back in, I want to say it was league meetings or could have been combine at a press conference where he said, he was asked about the edge rusher position. And he said that quite simply, that's the way they left it. Amicably, they were going to part ways, but they were going to remain obviously in each other's, text thread, if you will, that if something happens, to let us know and give us an option, to at least give an offer to ZaDarius Smith. But why it doesn't make sense to bring him back right now, and the reason why he's probably not back right now, is the Lions can make it through week 1, right? ZaDarius Smith knows this system. He knows how to play the game of football. He's been doing it for a long time at a high level. He's comfortable with the Lions. He knows everybody on the squad. It would be an easy slide in and go to work, right? He did it when he came in after the trade deadline last year. So if the Lions go through week 1 and then they bring in ZaDarius Smith, I don't think anyone's really going to bat an eye at it and say, that it mattered if he was brought in then or if you bring him in now. And I'm not saying that the Lions wouldn't bring him in now, but what the conversation said with my source was this. The reason why you bring in the vets after week 1 is because then the salaries, right, the contracts, they're not guaranteed. Now, you can do whatever deal you want with that player, but largely vet deals after week 1 are not guaranteed. So that's why it makes more sense to bring in ZaDarius Smith after week 1. So don't panic, right? There's still plenty of time. Week 1 is right around the corner, and we could have ZaDarius Smith back in the Honolulu Blue by week 2. And I would say that's not a bad thing. You're still going to have him for, 19, 20 more games if you get him after week 1. So that's it. Go Win Pride. Go Detroit Lions. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.
Oh, the podcast.
Shout out to Rockhound Detroit Lions, man.
There
One
you
pride.
go.